please welcome Nanny, Robina, and Dr. Marjorie Dixon. Hi, ladies. You see how easy that was?
That was easy.
That was easy. That was like Tracy Moore easy.
It smells good.
Okay. You know, this is an interesting topic, and it comes up again and again, and it's all about when you start to talk to your children about how they talk about their bodies, okay? Because they are obviously very interested in their body parts. It's a normal curiosity, but parents, things have changed a lot. So when I was growing up, we didn't necessarily call the body parts what they are. They had cutesy little names, right?
Yeah. And I think it's still there today. There are
It's still happening today, but a lot less so, I find.
Yeah.
It depends on the household, right?
It depends on the household. So why don't we start with, you know, at what age do you start talking to kids about their body parts? Because they're going to have questions for you at a very young age.
I think once they actually get to that point where they do start to actually, I think they let you know, they start to explore.
Yeah.
Right? So they kind of let you know. Every child is different. So you're going to have some children that hands down the pants and, you know, they're all there and they're exploring. And then you want to have a talk about, you know, parts of the body. And if you do use the real words, then it's good to put it in the content with all the body. Because I think if you emphasize constantly, this is called a penis, this is called a vagina, they use that word all day at the supermarket, everywhere, because it's been emphasized, you know, and they use it constantly.
Right? And I think that's why parents sort of hold back.
And I think that we need to be careful, because that's what the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Canadian Pediatric Society recommends, that you actually use the proper terminology. So being a physician, it's easy for me to say vagina, penis, scrotum, vulva, because we call things their names. And in fact, my children were very well informed from the time they were 2 and 3 about the names of their body parts, so that if something happened, and they were also instructed that, you know, there are private parts. These are your private parts. On a girl, they're called a vulva and a vagina, and on a boy, it's a penis and a scrotum. That's when they asked.
You can tell she's the doctor.
No, but that's what you're recommended to say, because you don't want them to be in a circumstance where something happens and they can't identify exactly what happened, right?
That's a valid point. But then did they go to the playground and be like, look at my vulva, vulva, vagina?
So maybe,
because that's the whole thing. That's the reason why, you know, there's some hesitation, because once they learn those words, they absolutely love those words. But they want to say them all the time.
I also think there are some cultures out there, they've been raised also with using nicknames, and that's okay. Some people are just not comfortable. They're not comfortable to say penis, vagina. They want to call it a winky or a wiener.
A Peter.
Wiener? I don't get the wiener thing. I don't get, like, I actually had a lady email me on Facebook and say she had raised her child with calling it a wiener, and when she introduced him to a hot dog wiener, he was traumatized by it. He's never eaten one to this day. So I think, you know, going for the proper words, but as long as they know both, I don't see any harm in giving a nickname. That's my view. Like, if you want to call it a winky, but he knows it's a penis, and it makes people feel more comfortable, because I think it's got to be done at their own comfort level.
But you have to also realize that when they talk about it, much as we as adults might cringe a little, it's not about how we're feeling. They're kids, and they're investigative reporters. They want, what is this called? And then my kids had a full conversation at age 5 and 3 when they were in the bathroom brushing their teeth. And my son says, it's kind of fun to have a penis because I can pee on a Fruit Loop, because that's how we kept the pee in the toilet first. And then my daughter's like, I can't pee on a Fruit Loop. He goes, but it's okay to have a vagina, because then you get to sit and relax when you pee. Right? So you see how they completely see it innocently. But I don't think there's any harm in calling it a winky or whatnot. But we have to realize that using the proper terminology also makes, when you have bigger conversations about other things related to the parts, not so painful.
So this is what you say, this is the beginning of their sex education. Naming the body parts is the beginning of their sex education. Do you think there is an age that is too young for you to start talking to them about sex education, like where babies come from, how they're made?
I think the terminology you use has got to be age appropriate.
So
I think, you know, when you're not going to actually say, excuse the French, but it's like the penis goes into the vagina with a 2-year-old. You're not going to use that kind of term. You're actually going to speak in a term that a 2 or a 2.5-year-old would actually understand if they're at that age where they're actually going to say, where do babies come from? How is the baby made? You've got to put it in a term that they understand.
And different ages say different things. So the 2-year-old will say, or maybe not 2, but 3 or 4-year-old will say, how did I get in your tummy?
Yeah.
And you can choose to answer that the long way, which can get you into situations where you might not want them to know all of those details.
Right.
But you can say, well, we all come, no matter how we come to our families, we all came from eggs and sperm. Egg and sperm got together. In my case, it was in a Petri dish, so it was really easy to say,
No,
right?
no kidding.
And
Yeah.
then it was put back into me, and that's what I do as a career. So my kids probably think that most babies are made in a scientific laboratory.
Right.
So it won't, even when I go to school, parents will say, this is Dr. Dixon, she helped us have, so their colleagues at school also know that I sometimes was a part of their baby making situation.
So they think she created all the babies.
So they
now.
think that babies are all made in a lab. So I think that you have to keep your answers succinct to the appropriate situation.
Yeah.
Kids know way more than we think that they know. And it's appropriate to start saying things about sex and sex ed at home because they will get all kinds of misinformation. And look at the media.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that's
television, radio, songs about bums and that woman, like some of the lyrics on the radio, it's all teachable moments. And that's what pediatricians always tell you. Use a moment. If your child is stuck in a car with you, if you're somewhere private, you're walking down the street and something happens and you see it, use that moment. Because what you have at home as your principles and your guidelines for living that are appropriate for you in your household, it gets translated, but they are constantly bombarded by what you might not want them to do. So
and really quickly, if they are obsessed with their body parts, you know, rightfully so, they're interesting parts, is it okay to tell them that this is something you do in private?
Absolutely.
You study your parts in private.
Yeah.
So not at school, not at the school washroom, not in the school playground,
and the old school
not at
was,
church.
you know, parents would say, that's dirty, don't touch that. That would be the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, it's not dirty.
It's not dirty.
It's your body.
Perfectly natural. It's okay for them to do it. They will do it. Just ask them to take themselves to a private place to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good with that.